Hello YouTube, this is Keith Kevin Kent. How you doing? How you doing? I hope you're doing well. Time again for another knife of the day. This is a brand new knife. It's not a Spyderco. I just bought it. It just came in yesterday. And I'll tell you, well, let's just tell you what it is. And then I'll tell you all about the knife and kind of my feelings about it. You guys know, besides Spyderco, I'm a huge Chris Reeve knives fan. And after deciding to go consulting, I started buying some Chris Reeve knives. Used to have 56, and then I trimmed them all down and trimmed a lot of them out of my collection. So I started looking at knives that I haven't owned before. This I definitely never owned before because it's a relatively new knife. It's a new Chris Reeve Impinda slip joint. Now, I heard someone else pronounce it differently, and they said that Chris Reeve's son told them how it should be pronounced. I'm going to call it Impinda until I hear differently. I-M-P-I-N-D-A. It's a slip joint from Chris Reeve Knives. I mean, a slip joint. Now, you guys know, if you've heard me on this channel before, I like slip joints. I'll be 60 years old this summer in 2019, and I grew up with slip joints. I mean, the locking knife is not that old, okay? And so, I'm okay with slip joints. I love them. My highest end slip joint, well, I have two custom slip joints. And my highest end one is a pinna, a custom pinna knife. And it's a slip joint. This is Chris Reeve. Never thought I'd see Chris Reeve have a slip joint. In fact, I think the father, the inventor of Chris Reeve Knives, said he never would do a slip joint, I believe. Well, they came out with one. The Impinda is a collaboration. Well, it's a collaboration between Chris Reeve and Bill Harsey. H-A-R-S-C-Y. I'm not familiar with Bill Harsey, but great designer. This thing is designed just wonderful. And you can tell, now that I tell you it's a Chris Reeve knife, that you can start seeing some of the Chris Reeve elements, and you can also see some new things as well. So it's a slip joint knife. That means it's a non-locking knife. Now, I want to talk about this, but I'm going to start right off the bat and talk about price. I think in one of my most recent videos, I literally think that now in 2019, Chris Reeve, everyone just going, well, it's expensive, a Sebenza, etc. It is not an inexpensive knife, Chris Reeve Knives, but let me tell you, given the history, the build quality, and all of that, it is not that expensive today. Because there are knives from production companies, even companies that are producing out of China or Japan, that have $350, $400 knives. I don't even know the background. I don't know who designed the knives, who made the knives. Before it was, you can get those knives and they would be inexpensive. Of course, there are still inexpensive knives out there. We all know that. And of course, there are a lot of knives cheaper than a Chris Reeve knives. Please don't tell me. Obviously, I know that. But what I'm saying is that when I started just 4 years ago, there weren't that many makers. And when you got a Hinder or a Chris Reeve knife or a Strider, you knew you were in that $400 range. Nowadays, I see a lot of knives in a $400 range. You may not see them on YouTube, but I see them in Blade HQ and everyone else, Knife Center and whatever, and I literally don't know anything about those knives. So the prices for knives, as that collecting and buying knives have gone up, A Chris Reeve plain Jane knife at $350 is not out of the range of a lot of other knives, okay? Production knives. So it's not that crazy. Now, when you start putting flourishes on it and everything, it changes. Now, why am I talking about that when I have a simple, plain Jane looking Chris Reeve slip joint? It's because this slip joint that I got from Blade HQ cost $450. This slip joint, and again, I never talk prices, do I? Because I think what people have in their pockets and what they're willing to spend on anything, from food to cigars to anything, is their business. I have spent $450 on a cigar before, a Cuban cigar. So who am I? And I'm not rich. So who am I? But it just strikes me because I have this knife, which is a brand new and single. We'll talk about this knife as a knife of a day, that I got from knifeart.com exclusive. Carbon fiber, large and single. I mean, large Inkosi with an single blade from Chris Reeve Knives. This knife costs as much as this knife. So this is a knife with a flourish. It has carbon fiber. I mean, 2 studs, a special bead. I mean, so anyway, I wanted to put the price on the table because I have seen some people talking about this knife and they don't mention the price. Usually I don't mention the price because all you're going to get is comments and everyone focused on the price. So I understand why you don't do that, but it even rocked me, and I'm a big Chris Reeve fan. Okay, I wanted to get that out of the way. If the price was $300, $350, I'd understand it. $450 when I can get another one. Now, I bought this, so you guys look at me like, well, you're talking about it, but you bought it. I'm sorry. I got a sickness. It's a collector's sickness. I need to have a new Chris Reeve knife in my hand, especially something like this that we haven't seen before, a slip joint. Okay, so let's talk about it. S35 VN steel with a hollow ground drop point blade, stonewash, so that harkens back to all of the Chris Reeve knives that we've come to expect, the modern ones. Before it was S30, but S35 VN steel. Of course, this has a nail nick. It is a very strong spring, which is what you want, right, in a slip joint. And of course, it's brand new. It has a nail nick. You see me, I pinch to open because nail nicks are difficult for me, especially after I clip off my fingernails. So right now it's hard. I'm sure it'll loosen up a little bit, just a little. The tolerances seem really great. S35 VN steel drop point hollow ground stonewash blade, 3.1 inches, about 3.1 inches total, 7.1 inches when it's open, the total length. I'm going to compare this to a small Sebenza 21 and a large Sebenza 21 at the end of this, so you can see that it's in between those two. But you get a feel for the length. Actually, it's not in between. Yeah, it's in between those two. But you'll see the thing. It feels great. With this titanium in my hands, it feels wonderful. It really does. And I love that big pivot. You see that? Kind of a dome pivot right there. And of course, where you can screw it comes with all of Chris Reeve's stuff comes packaged just wonderful. Now I've seen a couple of YouTube folks, and I was wondering why I couldn't get this. I saw a number of people on YouTube talking about their Impinda a couple of months ago, and I could not find one. I looked everywhere. I was trying to track down one a couple of months ago, could not find it. I was so frustrated. And then, of course, I've been on Blade HQ way too much, and it popped up one day, and I grabbed it. But what some have said is they had troubles. I guess they released about 50 of them to special people or whatever. And they had problems. One of the problems was back here with the spring. There was a ripple kind of effect on the back of it. I haven't seen, it's funny, everyone did their reviews, but no one talked about the ripple effect and stuff. So there was kind of a ripple effect that had happened. Now, of course, Chris Reeve has said send them in and they change them out. You know, all Chris Reeve knives have lifetime guarantees. They also said on the pivot, people like to mess with their knives, of course. Chris Reeve always gives you a tool, and I guess it was kind of not stripped because it hadn't been used yet, but it was hard to catch to mess with that. So I think they stopped production until they could solve those problems in production, and obviously they have. I don't see those problems with the spring, and I'm assuming that the pivot is fine as well. But it came out with some problems, and they have resolved that. And everyone has said customer service was great. So that's why I couldn't see it. I kept asking people, please, if you get one, I want to buy it. I just need to have it in my hands. I'm sorry. Once I get collecting something for 4 years straight, and they come out with something new, I'd like to feel it and touch it. And it does feel like a great slip joint. Titanium, of course. The clip is a different kind of clip. Nice clip. With the curve of the knife, it feels great in the hand. You don't even feel that the clip's there. It's right hand, tip up only. You have the lanyard hole right here, which is really nice. Now, one thing that, and this is just my preference, and I didn't pull out my pinya. And I have another custom slip joint. I'm just used to, you know, and this is me. It's my bias. It is not about this knife at all. Not at all. Spyderco a lot of times has a forward choil on their slip joint, so I just feel a lot more comfortable with theirs because, you know, your finger stops it. So I just have to get used to it. But let me tell you, this feels great in the hand. It is a well-built, well-designed knife. It really is. I would have liked a half stop, and that's what I didn't check with my Pinna. Pinna might not have one either. But it's only because I'm used to half stops, because most of the knives that I get, slip joints, especially the more expensive ones, have a half stop. But you want to know something? That bothered me for 1 hour because I was used to it. Now it doesn't matter. Get your fingers out of the way. You're closing it. Plus, it's a very strong spring. So, as you can see, I'm using 2 hands. I don't know how much that'll wear later, but I kind of like that. Why am I going crazy over slip joints these days? I guess because I'm in that kind of semi-retirement consulting mode, and I keep thinking, you know, all I need is a slip joint. I think the price is a bit much. That's me. I just do. $450. If I had spent $450 and there was some manufacturing problems, I would have just went crazy. Third hand, I heard that, you know, someone else's review said that the son talked to the father about it, and father gave an A-OK to both the slip joint and the Sebenza 31. I have to see that. I saw the inlay. I might get an inlay of the new knife once it comes out. The plain Jane version just looks like the regular 21. Except they've done some changes like with the Inkosi, you know, with the clip and stuff. But this is one of the newest knives from Chris Reeve, and I had to have it in my hand. I love the knife. The price I have issues with, but I've been having issues with a lot of prices from no-name places. So I've seen a lot of $400, 400 plus knives from places that are new to the knife game or are produced overseas. So, I don't know. But $450 as a guy who loves Chris Reeve knives, a bit much for a slip joint in my humble opinion, even this one. But I am happy to say that the construction and everything looks great. Here's a small Sebenza 21, which looks about the same size, right? Remember how I have the camera set. It's a little different. The small Sebenza 21 is about a 2.9 inch knife blade. The Impinda is 3.1 inches, so it is a little bit bigger. And of course, the large Sebenza 21. It fits in though, doesn't it? And actually, I'm not one of those that have to have that balance, perfection and balance. It does make sense that Chris Reeve has a slip joint, I guess. But I guess that means that they have to have a flipper next, huh? If you go along with that, I guess a flipper's coming next. But there you have it. The brand new Chris Reeve Impinda slip joint. I've been waiting for this one. I was frustrated that I couldn't find it and other people were talking about it. But there you go. Some people are favorites. I'm not one. I just spent a bunch of money on knives. But there you have it. The brand new Chris Reeve Impinda slip joint. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. I really, really do. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications. At some point, we're going to be doing a lot of trimming of my collection. I appreciate you all. Take good care of yourselves. Keep those pockets full. Goodbye.